Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CMON live stream today. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're here to talk about the end of the end of the end of the campaign. Well, almost. But time is ticking down because that's right. We're here for the final countdown for Degenesis Clan Wars, which you can find only on GameFound. There's only about 3 days left to pledge, and campaign links, along with other links we mentioned on the show, can be found over in the comments and in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for all the latest CMON news and updates. There is a lot to cover today, including a few very big surprises. And of course, we want to have time to answer all of your questions about Degenesis Clan Wars. So let's get right to it by introducing our special guests. Say hello to CMON's very own Kenneth. Kenneth.
Hi, everybody.
Great to see you again. Thank you for staying up so late to join us.
No problem. When you said final countdown, the song just played in my head. Final countdown.
It's always what I want to evoke. I mean, honestly, that's a great song for Degenesis, I think. It's going on my official soundtrack. Next, from our partner, Studio 6 More Vodka, returning to the show is the amazing Liam Foley.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey Liam,
nice
thank you so much for joining us again. It's great to see you.
It's good to see you too, and good to be back. I'm very excited to get into what we've got to talk about today. So,
yeah, I actually kind of just want to dive in because we do have a lot to talk about. I really want to talk about. I think these are some of the most incredible daily unlocks I think we've ever done in terms of the sculpts and things like that. And it seemed the reaction was great to them over on the campaign. So I'm very, very excited to kind of dive deep and find out a lot more about this and kind of how they interact with the game.
100%.
I think we can see jump in. And if you all have any questions, please put them in the chat. And we will absolutely try to answer everything that we can. So I think we can roll right into it. Let's see. Let's put the slide up here. All right. So these are the unlocks since last time. And let's meet some of these operatives.
Yeah.
Here.
So, 4 of our operatives in the operative expansion. A lot of these ones I'm really excited about. They have some really, really, really cool gameplay. Starting, I guess, on the left. So, Ramiel is a bit of a returning character from Degenesis. So, one of the things that we did when we released Artifacts, which was the rules expansion, was that we also released a set of starter characters that people could use as like pre-mades that they could jump into the game with and start. And Ramiel was the third one of those. He's like a very young Jahamadan who has been exiled from his family because he saw something that he shouldn't. He was witness to something that could carry severe repercussions to his entire tribe, so they got rid of him. And he falls in with Severin and Dido, who we talked about last week, and they form the Troika. And in the Operatives expansion, we brought them back as a trio to, be a kind of almost like an alternate like starting group. They're not used as such in the same way, but they have that sort of like connection between themselves that the starting roster does. Ramiel, mechanics wise, is really, really interesting because he has a very very, very unique gameplay style, because he's a very like young and sort of undeveloped character in himself. He actually can't flip himself from focus to primal. He has to use kind of his environment and set up situations so that he can go from focus to primal, because he's still being very influenced by the environment around him. So, as an example, if he's in focus and an ally on his tile is wounded, he goes primal, and whenever he wounds an enemy, he then may go back to focus, or he can stay in primal. So a lot of his gameplay comes down to this idea of like, it's more than just like deciding when you need to go focus in primal. It's working out the conditions that you need to go focus in primal. So he's super interesting. I'm very excited for like his gameplay. I think is really unique. Then next on the list is Neke, who is one of our African operatives and one of our apocalyptics. So a lot of the apocalyptics have a very interesting setup. Yeah, I mean, I figure it probably goes without saying, but I'm in love with all of these sculpts. I think they look incredible. It's kind of like, I don't want to keep going on the point because I think they all look really great. Nakia is an apocalyptic. I believe I can't remember if we name her as a vulture or a buzzard in Clan Wars. One of the two. She basically kind of prowls around war zones and uses them for profit. One of the opening lines on her dashboard is that if you can't make a profit in a war zone, you didn't deserve it anyway. And one of her big contributions to the team is that she has the ability to give her other allies burn, which we've talked about before as like a super, super powerful item that comes with the drawback that once you've got it, you can't get rid of it. So she has this huge idea of like being kind of the dealer with the devil, of like almost like the middleman in the deal with the devil, of like offering this to all of her other allies. And she has a bit of a unique aspect that she's like the only way that you can change the kind of burn that you have. You can't get rid of it completely, but if you want a different kind of burn, she can do some trading for you. Laika, another one of our like iconic characters from Justitian, the bitch, as she's called by the scrappers in the city, because she's the one who won't take their bullshit. She is like a proper hard ass, basically. And she's on this like meteoric rise through the ranks of the judges, but she's missing out because she doesn't have like working experience like a lot of the sort of more senior judges. So she's looking for a way to kind of, you know, push her fame just that tiny little bit higher. She has a lot of synergy with the rest of her team in a pretty interesting way. She can kind of move her allies around with her and kind of set up her own little like team attacks and combos and so on. So one of her actives is that she can displace herself and any ally one. So she can do like coordinated movements with her allies and, you know, work with the rest of her team. And that gets particularly crazy when there are other judges on her team, because she gets really, really strong when coordinating with other judges. And then finally, Turen, one of our clanners in the operative expansion. I find him super interesting. We've already had a couple of people like theory crafting about him on the Discord because he is monstrous when it comes to close combat. He is pretty much effectively melee only. He can only use simple items, so that precludes him to kind of, you know, blades and sort of up close weapons. But if he moved, he gets a bonus to his attacks. He gets rapid movement regardless. He gets extra like successes to all of his attacks, and he also has a lot of movement whenever he like wounds an enemy. He can displace. He has an active that he can displace and then attack, which, you know, is him kind of jumping into the enemy's ranks. And he also has a bit of a fun aspect that he can almost like infiltrate the enemy using one of his actions in focus, at the cost of every time he flips away from focus after that point, he takes a wound. So he kind of has to decide kind of when does he want to try and like slip out of the enemy like situation that he's got himself into, and when does he just want to kind of, you know, pop off and just start killing. So yeah, I adore like these operatives. Like as we get towards the end, I really think like there's some really cool gameplay that comes in, and because these are kind of the ones that we are like introducing close to the end, they're a bit harder to get a hold of. We can kind of start getting a little bit wacky and wild with the way that their mechanics operate. So I super love all of these. I'm really excited. And of course, we also have the other bits of the daily unlocks, which is the terrain. So corresponding, we have 4 bits of terrain, and this one is kind of like neatly divided down the middle, because on the left we have cockroach terrain, and on the right we have other terrain, like kind of historic or bygone items. So on the left we have the warbell and the totem. Both of those are cockroach structures. The warbell is used, it's pretty much like an alarm system. And the mission where it appears is very much a sort of trying to sneak around and not trigger the alarm, which means the operatives have to kind of think about, like, you know, making sure that the alarm doesn't get sounded. Do they try and like take out any enemies that are nearby that could alert them? Or do they try and just, you know, slip past without being noticed at all? And then, of course, the hostile has the angle of trying to actually detect where the operatives are, using their units. And then the totem is, you know, it's pretty much what it says on the tin. It's a religious structure that the cockroaches construct. They, you know, often can be found sacrificing the bodies of their enemies to the totems. They worship their the totems are like a representation of like their ancestors, and they pile bodies up and perform pretty gruesome sacrifices on them, and sometimes the operatives have to try and interrupt their rituals. And then the 2 on the right, so one of them I'll say a lot about, and one of them I won't say much about. One of them is a sort of dilapidated cockroach radio, not cockroach radio relay, Jesus, chronicler radio relay. Cockroaches having radio technology would be a little bit out there.
Hold on. Let me switch over to the chronicle relay, because like the next 2 that we have, let's just see the warbell and the totem a little bit more, and I'm gonna swap, because these are the 2 like beastly terrain pieces, the biggest that we have in the campaign. You just have to like see the scale of this thing. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, they are
I probably have to
quite
zoom
impressive.
out. This is huge. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to see people's paint jobs out there on some of these. This terrain is so hyper specific to each thing, and each has a function. This is going to look great on a table.
100%. I'm super excited for it. I mean, it's one of those things, like, you know, everyone is so into like painting all the minis and stuff, and that's all really great. But I mean, the paint jobs on the terrain, I really am hoping they're going to be pretty crazy and cool. So this is a chronicler radio relay. Without spoiling too much of the story, the characters, the operatives, will end up kind of following in the path of a previous expedition, and this is a relic of that still has some information in its buffers, and the operatives will be tasked with, you know, they under pressure will have to try and extract that information so that they can work out like what happened here before they got there. It's kind of like, you know, there's like a ghost in the machine of a message that didn't get sent. Very exciting. And then the other one, I won't really say much about. I will describe a little bit where it's found. This is the Hellgate. Yeah, I mean, perfect size, right? I love the fact that that fits. This is the Hellgate. I will say that it is found in an area called the Boneyard. The cockroaches have a stark distrust of technology to begin with. It's very much something that they have like a deep hatred of technology. That's bad enough. This is worse. When the cockroaches found this, it was so terrifying to them that they dedicated the entire site around it as just a sort of cursed dumping ground. So wherever they find technology that they don't like, they dump it here, and they hope that, you know, it maybe appeases whatever is inside, or it kind of soothes the spirits, and then they get the hell out of here. They really don't like this, and it's very much when it shows up, I think the operatives won't like it much either. But I will I will not say too much more of that at the moment. I mean, I will say, I mean, I adore the sculpt. It's kind of ridiculous how huge it is, but it's so cool, and it really turns into like the highlight of the board whenever it's on. So very exciting.
So that's Horace the Kid asks, does Hellgate equal new lore?
I'd say you'll see some things that people in the know will be like, oh my god, wow. And they'll connect the dots very quickly. So I don't want to give too much away about this one. Well, I think you'll be excited when you read what it does.
These look amazing, and I think that I'll remind everyone that we have 3 more days of unlocks. So that's 3 more operatives, 3 more pieces of terrain upcoming for the campaign that is going to help fill out that every pledge level that people decide to pledge. Actually, let's a general game question now. It's about weapons. We know that in the TTRPG, there are some very technologically advanced weapons and other items that players can use. And obviously, we see a lot of weapons in the hands of these miniatures. Will there be a few like that in the board game?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to go briefly investigate the campaign page so I know what's on there. Because there's one thing that in particular that everyone who is a big fan of the RPG will be aware of. If I'm not mistaken, we have revealed that there is at least a soul burner, which is an extremely powerful weapon in the TTRPG. Well, if not, then I will say that then you can unlock a soul burner.
Here first. Yeah.
And what I will also say is that if I'm not mistaken, then the card that showed up on the campaign page was in fact a pre-buff version of the card, which was already pretty insane. So yeah, definitely there are going to be some real impressive options for getting some of these like advanced weapons and items. More than just weapons are the kind of the flashy stuff, but there's also a lot of opportunities, and in fact we'll see one later today, wink wink, that are extremely like powerful from like the bygone era before the apocalypse. The soul burner is one, and I'll say that there is one of the later missions in the campaign. There's a moment of, I'll describe it as going into the dragon's hoard and coming out with Excalibur. If you survive the trip, there is some very, very tense moments that you can get big rewards, but you will also be you'll put yourself in extreme risk to get a hold of them. So yes, the answer is yes.
Well, that is such an addition to gameplay, I think, especially because they're going to add to your characters. So I think that's a perfect segue to talk about some of the new gameplay that has been revealed since our last show.
Yeah, so we've got 2 more of our potentials packs, which I believe puts us at 3 revealed now. Yep. So we have 2 more to go. So keep an eye out for those. These 2 I'm a big fan of. I love some of the potentials in here. The Mohammedans and the Anabaptists are kind of always pitched as very much opposites of each other. And I love this pair of potentials that they get in the Believer pack. So Wheel and Woe and Death Knell, which are very much, both of them get to take 1 trauma, so discarding a potential. And they both do different things. The Death Knell is very much like, you hunker down for the rest of the round, you endure an attack. Wheel and Woe is kind of going absolutely berserk and blitzing with 4 actions in a turn, which is, if you're right up against a champion and you get 4 attacks on them, like that's pretty crazy. And then the Mercenary pack, I really adore all of these. Shield Wall, Midnight Sun also, like it's a very simple, but it's a very powerful buff. I don't want to suggest that I don't like that. But thematically, I love the Mercenary Packs ones. I mean, all of them are crazy. Black Omen is hilarious because it is very much a case that you can draw the entire tarot deck using this card by just like calling the hostiles bluff every time and drawing an arcana every time that you get the opportunity. And at that point, it turns into a case of like, okay, both of you have like, you know, maybe 10 or so arcana. The next few rounds are going to be an absolute slaughterhouse. And it's kind of, you have to try and balance like who comes out on top in the end of that. So yeah, I love a lot of these potentials. They're really cool. The gameplay wise, they add so much. So, and some of the ones that are coming up in the other packs are also super, super cool. So I'm looking forward to getting into them. So definitely. Keep an eye out.
Yep. We'll definitely see the last 2 packs towards the end of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the way all of these are themed differently, but they add, I think, so much variety to how you can play. And you know, with just a simple card, you're really, I think, going to change a lot of the ways people go about trying to get their characters and their operatives to the outcomes of the missions.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's the bits that have been added over the past few days for every backer. And next I want to discuss an add-on that I absolutely love. I'm a sucker for art books every single time, and I think that this is one of the games where the artwork is so entwined with just the DNA, you know, of the world itself, that I think it's great to have it all in one place. And what was the, you know, what's in this art book? Like, what's the inspiration behind wanting to add it? And then, you know, what are you featuring here? Like, what are the different things we get within it?
So I guess the inspiration behind it, like, it really came down to, we got to the end of the campaign, and, you know, I've said that there was nothing that we didn't put in the game that we wanted to put in there, and that's true. But we have a tendency to overproduce everything. So even though we got to pretty much everything that we wanted to and were able to put in the campaign, we had so much that was just sort of left over. And combining that with all of the work that went into what's already there, it ended up being like, you know, there's so much there that we really wanted to show off. We really wanted to show off. Ricardo, our lead artist, did such an amazing job on so many of the works. And then, of course, all of the other artists on the team, we really wanted to give them a lot of spotlight. So yeah, it was natural to kind of put together this art book for the campaign, for like the sort of the true collector. I hate to say the word true collectors, but like the people who will always want to look at everything that we do. And this is going to be like a real treat for them. In terms of what's in the book, there's concepts that for everything that's in the game, you know, all of the operatives, all of the enemies, all the concepts in like really nice high resolution. There's concepts for the expansions. There's concepts for some of the things that we never got around to putting into the campaign. Hint, hint, what you can see on screen. And then there's some sort of other wildcard things that we put in there. Like, you know, we made like a short comic about Pluto, Ricardo and I, and we put that in here. So if you want to get a little bit of an insight into some of what Pluto's up to, then off you go. There's going to be exclusive short stories of the kind that sort of tends to go on our website. So those are going to be some super exciting things, some things that people haven't seen before, some perspectives that are completely new. Yeah, I mean, it's packed to the gills with just things that I'm really, really excited to show off.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a testament to Degenesis as a lore setting to have so many things to be able to add to a game with pre-existing lore and characters and clans. Yes, so it's great. I think the art book might be just my favorite piece in this campaign, just because of how great
I'm super excited. I'm super excited to get a hold of it myself, to be honest. One of the best things about working on Degenesis is that I get Degenesis for free because I put work into it. So I'm gonna be putting this right on my shelf after like poring through it. And I've talked about before how one of my favorite things about working on Degenesis is that I have nothing to do with the art, so I get to fanboy about it all I want.
Right.
So super excited for this one to go out.
And we actually have one more unlocked that we'll talk about, and that's today's just unlocked. One that I'm really excited about to go a little bit in depth on, and that is Atonke. Look at that sculpt. Look at that weapon.
He is super fun. I love the weapon. The sickle is so cool, and I really love his like gameplay as well. So Atonke is a character from Justitian, an Nubian, and he is very much like a fanatic, right? He's super dedicated to the cause. He will do anything to complete his mission, which is investigating a thing underneath Justitian. But he's decided and come to the conclusion that the only way that he can complete that mission is that if he effectively wins the clan wars. So he's joining in on the front lines, and he brings like a really kind of almost like a gambling kind of gameplay. I mean, one of his active is called Gambit. He gets a lot stronger the more damage he takes. So his two starting potentials are all kind of based around like taking damage and becoming stronger the less health that he has. But then using his passive blood memory, if he doesn't die during that mission, all of that damage that he took, he gets it all like healed back. It doesn't matter that the cards have been discarded, he brings them back. So he has this huge, like really interesting and intricate gameplay sequence of kind of like pushing it right to the limit of what is the absolute maximum that he can survive. And if he breaks, like sort of scrapes through, he gets like effectively a huge reward because he immediately gains back everything that he lost and then also gets whatever rewards the mission has. But of course, if he miscalculates, then he runs out of luck, and I don't know enough about gambling to have like a cool gambling like analogy right there. He goes bust and doesn't make it out. So very, very exciting character to have. I think I'm super excited to have him in.
And Cyberskull actually asked a really good question that I think relates to a lot of these people we've been introduced to over the past couple of weeks, all of these great operatives. What will the development of the operatives that we unlock at the end of the campaign look like? Will they be weaker than those we have played the most, or from the very beginning?
Yeah, so this is definitely something that I had in mind where like placing the operative missions. So every operative comes with 2 potentials. But depending on where they're unlocked in the campaign, they will immediately gain access to more, right? So it's basically a way of mitigating this idea of like, yeah, you unlock Atonke in like mission 10, but because he only has 2 potentials and all of your other operatives have 3 or 4, you can't be bothered using him because he's immediately not like up to speed with the rest of the cast. But yeah, there are systems in place to account for that, where the later an operative is unlocked, the more potentials they start with effectively, to kind of balance out that effect. If I remember rightly, just off the top, it's a case of if it's an Act 1, they get between 0 and 1 extra potentials. If it's an Act 2, they get between 1 and 2. And if it's an Act 3, they get between 2 and 3. So they don't start completely maxed out immediately, unless I'm mistaken, in which case they do, but whatever, because you get to pick the extra potentials that they start with, but they're not going to be like lagging behind your the rest of your cast. It is a totally a good question though, and it was one of the things that we were really careful about, because I would feel terrible if I go through this mission, I slog through, like, kill, I don't know, like 20 cockroaches or something, and then I get an operative that I can't justify using no matter how cool I find their kit. So you should have no problem just, dropping these new operatives into your roster depending on what mission you're playing and so on. So yeah, it should be all fine, hopefully.
And I'm sure, I mean, and the next question we have is, I think, a bit related to that. And I think it speaks to not only the challenge of working with a campaign style game and making sure that you achieve that balance with such a wide variety of characters, but because you've got a wide variety of characters with different skills, the question is, when you were choosing additional operatives to add to the game, were you driven by some specific criteria on who to add?
Yeah, I think there were two like paired bits of like criteria. Well, I guess three. One, we wanted people who were like iconic and existed in Degenesis somewhere. Like we really wanted to kind of have this cool idea of like, here's some characters that you've seen their art, you've seen how cool they are. Here's a great opportunity to use them. Criteria two that I think was very important to us was that they had to narratively fit. We really didn't want to kind of, there was an angle where we could have just sort of dragged a bunch of guys from all over the setting and just sort of thrown them at Clan Wars and been like, hey, whatever, they're here now, they're fighting in the war, don't think about it, it's fine. But like, we would never do that. That's not how we roll. We wanted characters that had some sort of like really cool and really unique and really fitting reason to be in the Clan Wars. So they had to all fit that. And then finally, we also really wanted them to all have like a unique gameplay style. So we wanted to have like, we didn't want to have, I don't know, like 10 guys with a machine gun that all played roughly the same. We wanted a bunch of operatives who all brought something unique to the table. Even within the cults. So, for example, we have 4 judges in the roster. Spoilers, because we haven't revealed one of them yet. But there are 4 judges total with the Operatives expansion, which makes sense narratively because the judges are kind of the figureheads of the Protectorate. And with that, we, and by we I mean Renard, because he did all of this and did a fantastic job, had to think about how to make all of these judges play distinctly. And he did a really great job because Furback is a kind of like the frontliner who draws all of the aggro in and like really plays off of the rest of his team by kind of giving them orders and directions. Severin is like the complete opposite. He's very much like on his own, but like can be supported. Instead of supporting his team, he's like supported by his team. Laika is kind of like almost like a strategist of kind of like moving units around on the board and like piling things on. And I'll give a little bit of a hint on the last one. The last one is like complete different.
Okay.
I don't need to answer anything that's in chat right now. The last one is like complete, like very much like a combat, you know, super combat monster who's like really strong in primal, really strong in focus, and has some really cool options for kind of playing around with like the order that things are done in. I have some very cool, there's some very cool things coming up. I'm very excited about it. But yeah, we'll get to him at some point, but we have another very big important reveal to get to, so I'm going to stop talking about the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of things we can't wait to get to. Oh, what is that?
What is that? There we go.
What is this? This is of course not the final thing that we're gonna show for the end of the campaign, but this is the final big thing that will be in all of the Apocalypse deluxe pledge levels. Yep. So this is going to, that big question mark that's up there right now over on the Game Found campaign. This is that question mark. All right, are we ready? We should get sound effects with a drum roll.
Like, I don't know, like a drum roll or some sort of music or something.
So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3.
There we go. Yes.
The Newmancers.
The Newmancers hostile expansion is the second big hostile expansion, the second big question mark in Apocalypse Deluxe. This one, we're super excited for it. I mean, Newmancers are absolutely, they're super iconic, they're super fun, and this expansion has a lot of really cool things about them in it. I kind of don't want to like linger on it too much. I kind of want to just show them off because I think the next slide has all their models.
should we take a look?
Yeah. So, Newmancers, they're like a very like iconic clan. They're one of the clans that we brought a real big focus on in the RPG before we stopped development. They are a clan that used to be the army of a different clan. So they used to be enslaved by the Mechans, and effectively a star fell on their capital and gave them the impetus to rise up, claim their freedom, and take over, and like oust the Mechans off to out into exile. So they are a very young clan in terms of their independence, and they're kind of really struggling to find their own footing. They're so used to warfare being the only thing that they had that they can't really come up with anything else. So they're kind of stuck in this spiral. And they sent a ambassador to Justitian to try and negotiate with the Protectorate. And as I'm sure pretty much anyone who's looked at the RPG will know, the ambassador turned out to be a complete disaster, because when like extracted from the sort of very Spartan and very like sort of harsh conditions that the Newmancers had to go through, he immediately descended into just, pure hedonism at the suggestion of the judges who were trying to do their own political meddling. So the campaign that the Newmancer comes in with, the Newmancer's hostile expansion comes in with, it puts the operatives in charge of escorting a Newmancer herald, one of their diplomats, to replace Luren, who was the one in Justitian. In theory, it should be a very simple job. In practice, not so much. And the sort of the big twist of the Newmancer campaign is that depending on the choices and the choices that the operatives make during their first mission, they could go down two very, very distinct and different paths in the campaign. On one side, there is a revolt, and on the other side, there is revenge. I don't really want to talk too much more about it, but I'll show off, we'll show off a little bit more of their kit and some of their gameplay. Yeah. Awesome. So I guess I'll start talking a little bit about some of the things that have been added to this expansion. So first off, obviously this adds a new clan for the hostile to play. The Newmancers, again, continuing the sort of progression that we had. So Corebox, the cockroaches were very much like savage. They have no real technology. They're like cannibals, just sort of like ripping and tearing. Phosphorites step up a little bit. They're using weapons. They're using phosphorus guns. They're still like very much like wrapped up in all these superstitions. And our Newmancers are like a proper fighting army. They have technology. They have a lot of steam-powered technology that powers a lot of their weapons and equipment. They are capable. They are smart. They are like individually very strong on their own. And that brings us to one of the sort of the most fundamental gameplay differences that the Newmancers have, which I'm very excited about, which is, and this is one of those things that like, if this was just said out of context anywhere, it wouldn't mean much. But in the context of Clan Wars, it's pretty huge. Newmancers can use items. Effectively, Newmancers are more than capable of understanding and using the tools of the operatives back at them. So the operatives can the operatives can use some of the Newmancers' weapons, but the Newmancers can do the same right back at them. And that adds like a whole new angle of the Newmancers are really stepping up to the same sort of level as the operatives, which makes them really strong and really dangerous. Other things that we've added in terms of gameplay, obviously there's a lot of steam-powered weapons and so on that the Newmancers have. So we've added mechanics to handle that, where effectively, once you light the fire in your weapon, it starts charging up. And the longer you leave it, the more powerful it becomes. But there's a risk that you'll have an overpressure and your own gun will explode in your hands because you let the boiler get too hot. So it turns into this very like interesting game of like, you know, working out like, when do you want to use your weapon? Can you hold off for another round because it'll be stronger? Or if, for example, you get stunned and your weapon is on the verge of charging up, like, you're going to have a really rough time. So lots of really cool things there. And of course, you know, we have a new map for the operatives to fight on. So without going too into what happens during the campaign, the operatives will find themselves in Nulpelia, which is the capital city of the Numancers. And this is the first time that we're really going into like an urban environment. And because of that, we have added a mechanic for walls, like defensive and solid walls that can be destroyed to open up new paths throughout the map. And you can see them on the sectors behind all of the cool other things that I'll talk about in a moment, as the thick red lines. And each one of those can actually be destroyed using your own weapons to, you know, remove cover from your opponent. It can open up new ways to move around the map. And some, I don't want to talk about it too much yet, but some of the units that the hostile gets can really use this system for some really devious things. Combustion cards, again, we really wanted to add like this new dynamic of gameplay that were kind of analogous to the swarm cards in the core box, but more fitting to the Numancers and befitting their status as like a trained army, instead of kind of these one-use things or the phosphorites where they could kind of choose what alignment the stars have. The combustion cards are almost more like stratagems that the Numancers can play out on the battlefield. So they'll have certain like formations of units that they can construct, and once their formations like are in place, they can like enact, you know, they might be able to unleash like a barrage of attacks against an enemy unit because they have a commander that's supported by 2 soldiers, and the commander sets the target, the soldiers both fire. And a big sort of twist on the other systems is that these are kind of like permanent. They don't get discarded. Once they're unlocked, that's a new tactic that the hostile can use. So the hostile gets like a lot of progression throughout this campaign. So the operatives really need to keep up by unlocking some really powerful new items that they get a hold of. I won't go too into these, but I'll say that we've added 10 more items to the game that are unlocked throughout. And some of these, like they can unlock some of the Numancer weapons for themselves and really put their own enemies' equipment to use. And also, Nulpelia is built on top of a huge underground complex that is not quite fully explored. And the operatives might get a chance to kind of do some digging down there and find some things that might not have been dug up yet. I think, and also 15 new potentials, so that's 1 for every cult, plus 3 more clanner ones. I did notice a question in the chat, so I'll address it. There won't be a Numancer operative. It's very much a case of you are fighting the Numancers for now. I mean, hey, look, who knows what could happen in future. But I would really like to show off the 2 new champions that the Numancers have access to during the campaign, because these are some absolutely incredible champions. They're kind of like, this is kind of like the capstone of the of Clan Wars, you know, like we really hit the peak. Yeah. This is crazy. This is the Anvil, which is a fixed emplacement. I think, you know, I think looking at it, pretty much everyone can kind of guess what this thing does. And when it appears in a mission, I think it becomes like a really dire moment for the operatives to kind of try and work out how to take this sort of thing down. It is a like huge emplaced piece. It's powerful. It is lethal, and getting up close to it isn't going to be super easy.
No, I'm guessing this one doesn't overheat.
Well, I don't want to, it's a pretty big boiler. If you kind of, manage to mess with that, I think you could get a pretty big boom out of it. So this is kind of like the capstone of one of the paths of the campaign. And then on the other side, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Deus Volt. So Deus Volt is one of the Warcrafter of the Numancers. He's almost like the sort of the second in command of the entire clan. And for reasons that I won't get into, one of the campaign paths end up on his bad side. And I'm allowed to be really excited for this because I didn't develop his mechanics. When Renard put everything together and showed off what Deus Volt can do, I was shocked because he is monstrous. When I mentioned that there are some hostile units that can use the terrain to their advantage, one of the things, and I won't go too into it because I want to like preserve the surprise of a hostile, unveiling their new character and seeing just these powerful things that they can do. Deus Volt can effectively like slam operatives through walls to stun them by picking them up as they move. He is like beastly, he's jacked, he has a huge hammer, and he has the full might of the Numancer clan at his disposal that he fully intends to use to slaughter the operatives that are in his territory. So yeah, that's Numancers. Super, super exciting. It's the total number of missions are the about the same as Phosphorite. So there's 9 total missions. There's an entire new field that they can play on. I'm super, super excited for this one. I think the Numancers are like a really cool clan, that adds like so much to the game. And I think it gives the hostile like so much depth in their own gameplay. So yeah, I mean, really filling out the rest of the Apocalypse Deluxe Pledge. I mean, come on, like those 2 champions on the board, like that's a really cool set of sculpts.
Yeah, so this is automatically included in every Apocalypse Deluxe Pledge. That question mark, we'll swap that out on the Game Found page, but it's also available as an add-on if you want an extra one, or if you are a frontline recruit pledge level, you can add this on.
Yeah, as I mentioned, so I didn't mention it this stream, but last stream we talked about how the operatives can like kind of jump in. So this campaign takes place kind of separately to the Core Box campaign. So the Phosphorites campaign, there were 2 ways in, which were leading in straight from completing the Core Box campaign and kind of jumping in fresh. The Numancers campaign is very much just jumping in fresh. You can use your post Core Box operatives. They should hold up okay. The Numancers are very, very strong. They are seriously lethal. They tend to show up in fewer numbers overall, but once they kind of really set up their like stratagems and positions, they are like a really tough nut to crack. So yeah, I'm really excited to play those. And that's the big reveal. And that brings us like 2 pretty iconic clans for the Apocalypse Deluxe Pledge that I'm really happy about us getting to show off. They were both very much like ones that we really wanted to display and kind of embody and add new depth to with their like the way that they behave in wartime. So very excited.
I mean, it's not just plans; it's also a lot of new missions, a lot of new gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to go through.
Absolutely,
and distinct from each other, right? Like the cockroaches to the phosphites to the Degenesis. Each of them have different elements to the story, to the boards, the different things that the operatives can do, the hostiles can do. It's a completely different gameplay experience from one to the next, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Like the campaigns are also very different from each other. I had a lot of fun kind of like setting the tone of each campaign. So the cockroaches is very much like, you know, kind of venturing into unknown territory. You don't really know what's going on. You're out of your depth. Then phosphorites is the sort of like mad scramble back to civilization to try and rescue the protectorate before it's too late. And then in this one, there's this very distinct, like you're on one path or the other, and depending on which one you go down, you'll end up with like a very different experience because of the way that like the things have gone. Whether you like are on this sort of revolt and fighting on the side of I'll spoil a tiny bit, whether you're fighting on the side of like a revolution or whether you're fighting for your own revenge against something that has been done to you as the operatives. So I'm super excited for both of those to kind of be explored, for people to start playing through those and like get to some of that content that's down the line.
For sure, and for them to be wrecked by Deus Vult.
Absolutely destroyed. Like it's going to be a case of like everyone gets to like the 4th mission in the chain, and then they're just like no one finishes the 5th one.
What is your favorite? I just want to know, Liam, what is your favorite thing of this campaign up to date? No, you don't pick favorite children, but like what is your favorite?
I'm so bad at picking favorites. You have no idea. It took me like 5 years of being part of Degenesis to pick a favorite cult. That's not an exaggeration.
What is your favorite cult? I want to know.
It's Scrappers.
Nice.
I used to be an engineer, so I kind of have that solidarity.
Makes sense.
I think my favorite thing about the campaign is the way that everything kind of like it all like slots together really neatly. I mean, it's kind of like a big, lofty, grand thing, but it's hard to overstate how much like all of the additional mechanics in each expansion all kind of really fit nicely in together. Everything sort of like smoothly flows from one bit to the other. In terms of, you know, that's kind of like the fancy, philosophical, nice answer. I just really like the idea of Deus Vult just picking up an operative by the face and like wall slamming him, you know? Like it's a really cool moment. When I was reading his cards for the first time, I was kind of just picturing in my mind just like him taking the operatives and just like, you know, grabbing them, slamming them through a wall, taking his hammer and smashing them, and then using a special effect that Deus Vult gets one use of that I don't want to spoil, but has what I'll say are explosive consequences for everyone involved. And I don't want to reveal too much about that because it's like a huge moment that the hostile gets to play out.
Yeah, I think Chaff feels the same way. Mia says, I can't wait to wall slam my roommate.
It's seriously, it's like just slamming them through like a plaster wall, except the wall is like a 2-inch thick plate of iron. Yeah, so that's our big reveal. So I guess if there's a couple of comments that we can take.
I think that's actually a great reveal. We're almost out of time. That's such an amazing reveal, but I do want to remind everyone that that while this is our last show of this campaign, we have greatly enjoyed showing everything off to you. There's still more, so I encourage you to check out the campaign. There's not only more daily reveals, but there's actually a question from Elysium64. Do you have any plans for adult versions of the miniatures closer to the original artwork, like Mildred, Kia, and the Mauler, etc.? I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting question.
I guess I don't know. I mean, there's certain things that I'm honor bound not to say. Specifically because I don't know if any of you have seen. I doubt any of you have seen inside Marco's office. Marco genuinely has several weapons that I believe he knows how to use that are from like the trailers that we filmed for Degenesis. So on pain of death, I won't say too much, but I will say, stay tuned. Don't worry about what you're asking about. Things will be fine.
Yeah, apropos of nothing, definitely continue to check out the campaign till the end. I think there's going to be some interesting things. There's going to be obviously the daily operatives. I feel like they've just been ramping up the entire time, and there may be another surprise. I mean, who knows?
Who knows? Anything could happen.
Anything could happen at all. I want to thank Liam Foley. Thank you so much from Six More Vodka for joining us. It has been such a pleasure to speak to you these past 2 weeks. I have greatly enjoyed the insight into this. I have been unable to play beyond, I think, what's publicly been revealed. So I cannot wait to dive into this campaign and get through it. This definitely feels like one of the games where I'm going to want to try different combinations with different operatives to see how they work and kind of how they affect the story. Like, this is definitely a game that I feel like tells me a like this epic tale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm super excited for people to start getting a hold of the game and really like, putting everything together. I'm telling you, I want tier lists and I want speedrun routes. That's like the two things that you need to make if you're a fan. I want to see you arguing about who's S tier and why it's Pluto.
It's like a whole new genre of board game videos to do speedrun. I think we
should have hit us any percent, any percent.
Any percent
speed runs.
Like with all one class of character, and then you do those speed runs and make it harder and harder.
I would love to see someone try and complete the campaign as Echo, because I think starting the game without being able to kill anyone and like managing to get through a campaign would be deeply, deeply impressive.
And it's possible. It's absolutely possible with this gameplay, which is
I'm pretty sure it is possible. I think you need to really think about how to upgrade your character at that point to try and like build a character that is like manages to be lethal. So yeah, I'm super excited to have the game finally out there. Like, I guess it's like a final message on stream from SMV. It's been like a huge like pleasure to have this game all out. We've been working on it ourselves for around about 18 months or so, probably even more than that at this point. So having the campaign out there, having so many people like tuning in and joining on and discovering Degenesis and so on, it's been huge. It's been great. I've been having a super great time with like showing off the game to everyone. Finally being allowed to talk about all the things that I've actually been doing. It's all amazing. So thank you guys so much for having us on here. Thank you guys so much for, picking up the game and all that. And I'm super excited for the last couple of days of the campaign.
Yeah, the end of the campaign signals the start of our work, right?
Yeah, at that point, this is on you. You've got to get this one over the finish line.
Well, thank you, Liam. Thank you, Kenneth, as you guys both prepare for your Clan Wars pacifist runs. I want to tell everybody out there, please tell your friends about this amazing campaign so you have people to play with, but also because I think that we're all so passionate about this world and these miniatures, and I cannot wait to get this thing to the table. Thank you all. Enjoy the end of the campaign. I think you're going to be really happy with the final packages.
Also, the update and the add-on will be added to the system in a little bit. We'll send out the email blast to tell you that you can put this in your add-on if you are at a recruit pledge, and for those with the Apocalypse Deluxe pledge, it will be automatically added in. Some of you have commented that you don't see it, but when the system refreshes, we'll be sure to have both expansions inside your rewards. Yep.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah. Also, we don't have a hashtag Nuzlocke challenge. We're gonna have a hashtag Echo challenge, right? That's our speed run.
Yes, I want Echo runs of this game.
Echo runs, yeah.
That's what I need.
For sure. That's all from me.
That's all from me.
Excellent. Well, we'll see you all next time on the CMON live stream, and enjoy the rest of the campaign for Degenesis Clan Wars.
Sacrifice everything.
Sacrifice everything.